Well, hello everyone. I hope and pray that you're doing well. When we look at John 1 verse 14, it tells us that Jesus came from the Father full of grace and truth. Now, some people are really big on truth. They don't seem to care that much about how you feel. They just want to tell you what they think. And if the brutal truth hurts your feelings, well, they respond, hey, I was just being truthful. Her soup stinks. Others are much bigger on grace. They care mostly about how you feel, and they think that disregarding the truth and the rules is what's best. And when you call them on this, they'll just kind of throw up their hand and say, hey, I was just trying to be kind and gracious, that's all. I don't want to offend anybody. Well, in Jesus, God managed to kind of squish the fullness of his grace and truth into a real carpenter's son from Nazareth. To be full of grace and truth is to be like Jesus. On the day that he moved between some Pharisees and a guilty woman whose guilty body they wanted to break limb by limb. And Jesus says, look at your hands. And in fact, he says to the Pharisees, look at your hands, and those hands with the stones in them. Are those hands clean? Will you kill this woman with hands that look like yours? And when these men with dirty hands kind of melt away from this scene of confrontation, Jesus turns to the woman and says, go now, but don't you sin again. And in fact, Jesus says, your life has been all wrong. Go now and be sure to get it right. Grace and truth. What a combination, and how rare we know this is. Philip Yancey writes, I view with amazement Jesus' uncompromising blend of graciousness towards sinners and hostility towards sin. Because in much of church history, I see virtually the opposite. We give lip service to hate the sin while loving the sinner, but how well do we practice this principle? We as humans tend to get stuck on either the grace part or the truth part of a combination that Jesus embodied perfectly. And again, we see it these days, right? Those who exude a grace unto forgiveness kind of hedge on the truth in order to be more inclusive. Meanwhile, those who stand up the loudest for God's truth sometimes do it in such a mean-spirited, in-your-face, shrill tone that the very possibility of grace seems at best remote. What the world needs is Jesus. Jesus. C.S. Lewis once wrote that a saint is a person who makes God believable. But most saints don't do that, just by being nice or mouthing a whole lot of sugary, pious-sounding phrases. No, we do that. We make God believable by living amongst our neighbors the way Jesus did. And according to John 1, the key way to do that is to mirror Jesus' miraculous blend of grace and truth. The grace and truth of Christ be your light this Advent season.